On today's episode of the Broadway Shuffle, are Texas Tech's Big 12 title hopes over, and who you do not want to face in March? That and much more next on the Broadway Shuffle. Welcome to episode 54 of the Broadway Shuffle. No Clayton tonight. He's got some stuff he's dealing with as he makes a trek to Colorado this weekend. But we've got Conrad and Zyler here with us today. I'm Brennan Baxter. And if this is your first time at the Broadway Shuffle, we are so glad you are here, whether on Spotify or Apple or on YouTube. We appreciate you checking in. If you do love the show and you would like to like this episode and subscribe to our channel, we would appreciate that. 55% of our average listeners are not subscribers. So if you're on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. Make sure you never miss an episode. And if you're on Spotify or Apple, follow along as well. And we want to thank our sponsor, E3 Consulting, for sponsoring this episode. Conrad, I'm going to go to you first, man. Unfortunately, you are now, what is it, 0 for 4 in Fort Worth when you attend Texas Tech sporting events. So you unfortunately seem to be the bad luck charm. You were there yet again on Tuesday night. Walk us through your evening, man. I know you've got some interesting stories on and off the court that you want to share with our listeners.
Yeah, so I had the opportunity to go to the game and got really good seats, pretty close actually. I'll leave the talk about the game to our conversation. I want to tell a couple stories that I think our listeners will find entertaining. First and foremost, had the opportunity to meet a young man. His name is Ryan, and his fiance Isabel. They sat right behind us and touched me on the shoulder and was like, "Hey, are you Conrad from the Broadway Shuffle?" And I looked at him and I said, "Well, yes, I am." No, I'm kidding. I didn't say that. I just said, "Hey, yeah, what's up? Thanks for listening to the show." And so we had the opportunity to talk throughout the game. It was really fun getting to know him and talk a little tech sports with him. But really the funniest story of the night happened after the final buzzer. And we obviously lost the game. We'll talk about that in a second. But I was walking out of the stadium or out of the arena, and in the concourse, I turned around and there are just some TCU young guys, probably 28, 29, maybe 30, I don't know. And they were just screaming at this tech guy. And he was in their face and he was saying some choice words. The other guy was saying some choice words, and they were just going back at it and back and forth. And they said, "Oh, let's take this outside." And I was just kind of standing there waiting for somebody. And then we walked outside, and these same guys were out right in front of the stadium. They weren't fighting. No punches were thrown that I saw, but they were up in each other's face, just screaming. Obviously, they had maybe consumed some things that they shouldn't have, and they were just going at it like crazy. And then this group of tech people starts chanting "NIT." NIT, NIT at all these TCU people. And it was pretty funny. And it was funny because I heard this girl ask, she said, what's NIT? And a tech guy just turns around and looks at her and goes, "That's the tournament that people go to that don't make March Madness. So like TCU." And it was a tech guy who said that to a girl wearing purple. So that was pretty funny. But yeah, 0-4 for me in terms of, sporting events in Fort Worth. I was at the A&M game, was at the football game, and then was at the basketball game last year in Fort Worth too. And I don't know what my deal is. I guess maybe I should just stop going to games in Fort Worth because it never goes well, but it's just it's so tempting because it's so close to where I am. So Red Raider Nation, do not blame me, although maybe I do deserve some of the blame for the last 4 losses in Fort Worth.
Dude, I really hate to bring this up just to kind of further the knife a little bit, but you also were at the Colorado football game. So I don't know.
That's true.
Conrad, what was the last in-person win you saw?
Arizona. No, I was at the Colorado game.
Weren't you at Baylor?
Oh, no. So and then it was Arizona State before that.
Okay, so you're like 1-7 in your last 8 Texas Tech sporting events. Maybe this is a sign you should probably never move to Lubbock, man. I'm sorry.
Conrad is the Matt Wells of Tech fans.
Let us know in the comments. Am I the Matt Wells of Tech fans?
Oh, man, dude. Well, it'll surely turn. It has to, law of averages. But what a crazy story, man. And shout out to Ryan. Thanks for listening to the show. Z, get more into the game aspect of this. You kind of just didn't seem to have the energy you normally have. Toppin obviously did not have a 30-13 game this time around. But overall, what were your thoughts? And does this pretty much knock you out of Big 12 title hopes for the regular season?
Yeah, I'll talk about the game first. I really think it boiled down to two simple things. It was offensive rebounds and turnovers, which truly haven't been something that's plagued your team really all year. Offensive rebounding sometimes, but significantly better this year than you were last year. You were just careless with the ball. I think TCU scored 38 points on turnovers and offensive rebounds, and so those are second chance or free possessions, and so you just cut that in half, and it's a 20 or 15 point victory. Now that's obviously easier said than done, and TCU ran some good stuff, and I thought they played really well defensively, but you got good looks. You gave up too many second chance points, and you gave them too many extra possessions. You shot the ball really well. It wasn't like you had a bad shooting night. You got to tip your cap a little bit. TCU's kind of back in the bubble mix. Their resume metrics are around top 50, which is kind of close enough to be considered for the bubble. So we'll see. The bubble's really weak this year. But, I mean, they've got a chance and they've got a manageable schedule. But, yeah, it definitely knocks you out of the title race. You're just not going to catch Houston if they're now 3 games up on you, I think, with 5 left to play. I mean, you do have 1 against them, but I don't see them dropping 2 extra games unless Iowa State snags them and you get them. And that's just going to be really tough. Right now, you just need to make sure that you finish top 4 in the Big 12, and I think you have a 96% chance to do that. Really, surprisingly, the team that's got the best chance to catch you is BYU. But overall, I mean, tough to win on the road, and for whatever reason, tough for us to win at TCU, but you move on.
Yeah, it was an interesting game to be at and to watch up close. Like you said, Z, we really didn't shoot the ball that poorly. I mean, I'm looking at it right now. It's 49.1% from the field. I mean, that's a pretty good shooting night. What was concerning a little bit for me, and I'm no expert on TCU basketball, but they've got some bigs that just seem to body JT a little bit. JT is such an athletic freak. He can jump. He can do all these different things, but it feels like to me when he gets challenged by some guys who have some more mass than he does, he just struggles. And I don't know if that was apparent to you guys on TV, but that was seeing the game up close. That was pretty obvious, seeing that he struggled. I think it was number 8. I don't know what his name is. I'm no TCU basketball. Yeah, Uday. He was just bodying him in some respects. And so I think when you couldn't get inside with JT, that was a big blight on your opportunity to win the game. And then Federico, he had a spurt where he was playing super well, but then he's kind of had a lull these past few games, and so really need to see him play well again, because he did not contribute nearly what you had hoped he would last night. And again, I think it may have been he was just getting boxed out by dudes that were just bigger than him. So that's a concern for me looking forward, and I hope you can find a way to maybe scheme something up against that. But at the same time, if a guy's just bigger than you, he's going to box you out, and you're going to have to do some pretty creative things to get around him.
Yeah, this is interesting to me. The more we get deeper into Big 12 play, you're kind of seeing just this team feel like it. To me, like you see D5, he has 21 points. Toppin has another double-double, but plays okay. But then your guards again kind of disappear. Like Hawkins, Walton provided not much at all. Anderson only had 5, I think. And he didn't really get much.
Bad turnovers.
And some bad turnovers. He kind of looked like it was kind of the first game in a while that he looked like a true freshman, and that's going to happen on the road, a tough environment, Big 12. But I do feel like to win in March, to win deep, you can't solely just rely on one guy all the time to be there for you. You need some other guys to hit big shots. Like we saw against Houston, you needed Corwin Walton to kind of get hot there for a spurt, and he did. And this team has the capability to do it, especially with Chance and D5 and Toppin. And then when Anderson's coming and playing well. But what is starting to concern me just a little bit is like if you get into these lulls, I know you shot the ball decently, but you really need 2-3 guys to make a defense struggle. Like to really be like, we have no answers for these guys on the offensive side of the ball. And you have to be able to do that 6 games in a row. And even though we're 20-6 and 9th in the country, and I'm not nitpicking, I'm just saying you want to be able to have that happen more regularly than not. And I feel like we just keep coming back each week going, you had 2 guys play well, or you had 1 guy play super well, but you didn't really have all 3 guys. You didn't have the big 3 all averaging 15 plus or all averaging 20 plus. And I know that's harder in college, but it's just something I'm keeping an eye out as we keep progressing, especially against West Virginia at home and Houston. I just kind of want to see a game where it's like, man, these dudes are unstoppable. Like, it's not just Chance or it's not just Toppin or it's not just D5. It's like all 5 guys on the floor are making the defense suffer. And I know that's high expectations, but I do think these guys have the skill set to do it. And that's why I think it's something that I would love to see them kind of be able to do a little more than get so reliant on 1 or 2 guys, to score for you.
It was pretty obvious too, just at the beginning of the game, how it was their game plan to double JT super quick. They just wanted to get as many guys on him as quickly as they could and force him to make some passes. He made some good passes, but thought that was interesting. And I don't know. I think it was we should have expected them to do that, right? I mean, a lot of people have done that, but at the same time, it's also concerning that that's probably going to happen, and other guys just didn't step up maybe the way you had hoped for them to do so.
Yeah, it's the first time I've seen the double come on the entry pass immediately. I think that probably caught us off guard, but we have the shooters that doubling is such a risk. I'm surprised they were able to get away with it. Their backside defender did a decent job. They had some long defenders that are tougher to pass on, but overall, if a JT post up is going to lead to a double team and an open shot for either Christian, Darian, Chance, or Kerwin, like, I'll take that all day long. I thought you got good shots. You just missed some of them there at the end. Elijah had a great look in the corner. You even had a chance to win it at the end, despite all of that. I didn't think you played particularly well, and you still had a chance.
Oh, sorry, Conrad. And my point, when I'm talking about, like, I know if you're looking at the box score and you're looking at 14, 19, or 14, 19, and 21 from D5, Chance, and Toppin, you'd probably take that. And but when I'm looking at the other 4, like Overton 0, Kerwin 0, Federico 3, Anderson 5, like, you need multiple guys
4.
to beat Hawkins 4. Like that. It's there's not going to be. It's going to be very hard to win that way against very dominant teams. And we're about to get into that second on who you don't want to face in March. But you're going to be potentially in regions with teams that are going 9 deep, 10 deep, of guys like looking at Alabama offense and an Auburn offense. Like 8 dudes, 9 dudes, they're just coming off and they're replenishing. And if you're not getting any production outside of the 3 or 4 and you're relying on Hawkins and Anderson to continue to score 12 to 15, we just haven't seen that enough across the board, which is a little concerning. And it's a lot to ask, but it's what you have to do to, make a deep run.
And one thing I was encouraged by is our out of timeouts plays were the best I've seen all year. We've been, even when we were running this stuff where we just chunk it all the way down the floor or like different things like that. I'm glad that we schemed up some stuff. You had that pass to Toppin out that went for the dunk. You had some stuff that worked really well, and I was encouraged to see that. So I think there were some positives to take away, but I agree with Brennan on pretty much all those points. You just need, for the guys that are not playing top 5 minutes, so Kerwin, Kevin Overton, Federico, you need more than 7 points a game. You got to get something more than that.
Yeah. And that's the weak spot in this team, right? It's not talent across the board. It's the fact that you're just not getting consistent minutes from those guys where they pull something, that's respectable every single game. I mean, that's where we're going to struggle. And if this is, this is a great team. We've got, I mean, it's really, I don't know. We'll have to see where it ranks in our best teams list of the last 10 years, but this is a really good team. But if we don't do those things with KO, Federico and who was I missing? Kerwin. If those guys, sorry, Kerwin, I forgot you. That happens sometimes, unfortunately. But if those things, it's like you've got to get those guys all playing really well and playing together. And I know they're good teammates. They mean a lot to this team, but things just have to click with them. And if they don't, I will be concerned in terms of how far we can actually go in March.
Yep. Yeah, Z, in terms of seed chances and what this means, you obviously have the opportunity against Houston on Monday night to definitely earn back a higher seed. But what does this do with this loss? Does this drop you to the 5 line projected?
I mean, I think there's a chance you would be one of the top 5 seeds. I think it's going to depend on what teams do around you. Like, Missouri plays, and if they're able to knock off Bama at home, that maybe moves them up to the 4 spot. I think you're probably the 2nd or 3rd, 4th seed right now, somewhere in there. So, still everything ahead of you. You go 4-1 to close the season. I think you'd feel really good about a protected seed. 3-2, you're probably 50-50, and anything less than that, you're probably looking at a 5 or a 6 seed. So just depends. The problem you have with your resume right now is the resume averages are right around 22, which is like, oh, that's like a 7 seed, or like a 6 seed really. But your metric averages are like a 2 seed. And so where does that kind of fall? And it's going to depend on what the committee chooses to value. Typically, they don't like to, if you have any sort of body of work, they'll typically seed you according to your metrics. But you've got to have enough to where it's kind of reasonable. So you need to just keep stacking wins.
Yeah, so before we get to who you do not want to face in March, I wanted to make a quick note because I did not do this at the beginning of the show, but we were scheduled to have an interview with Norrance Odiase. Unfortunately, Norrance had to reschedule, so we will be bringing that to you in the next week or two. So if you're listening and like, where the heck is Norrance? I heard you guys drop that late in the episode last week. You will still see him. We are in discussions with him, and he'll be on, and he has plenty of stories to share about his time as a Red Raider and what he thinks of this team too. So we're looking forward to that, but unfortunately had to reschedule. So you're just stuck with the three of us tonight. So enjoy the rest of the episode. So, all right, let's get into who you do not want to face in March. I've already mentioned a couple names, Alabama, Auburn's of the world, maybe a Duke. But Z, who is in your mind, like if the bracket gets revealed and you're looking at it and you're a 4, let's say, just for this sake of this conversation, and you see Auburn at the 1 or Houston at the 2, like who were you, like maybe give me 5 teams, like I just pray we're not in their region.
Yeah. So when I look, initially I look at kind of those higher seed lines, and I really just want to stay off the 5 line. I don't want to play George Mason. I don't want to play Yale. I don't want to play UC San Diego, any of the teams like that. But if you are a 4, I think the worst matchups for you are Duke and Florida, without a doubt. I would rather play Auburn, and I would 100% rather play Alabama. That'd be the team I'd most want to see as the 1 in my region. I just think they're the most susceptible to, an off shooting night or something like that, tanking them. I think Auburn and Florida, especially. Florida has a ton of bigs. They have huge centers that would just be a monster problem for you, both defensively and for topping. I just think you're a bad matchup. I think Auburn's better than Florida, but I just think that would be a really poor matchup for you. Those would be the teams I'd want to avoid. As far as, if you're looking at 5s and 6s to avoid, if I'm a team, and let's say we're somehow on the 3 to 4 line, the 6s that I don't want to see, Maryland's a team I don't want to see, and probably Marquette or Missouri. That'd be another team I wouldn't want to see. But yeah, give me Kansas, give me Ole Miss, give me UCLA, give me Illinois. I'd even take Mississippi State if they're there. But Maryland is a team that I think would be a horrible matchup for you. Just a really dominant interior guy and a lead guard that's like 6'5". So Elijah having to try to guard him would just not be a good matchup for me in my mind.
Yeah, and Conrad, I mean, really, March is all about matchups and who you get and who you get drawn. We saw last year NC State really kind of expecting to beat them with the 11, and they make the Final Four on some pretty good matchups, draws for them. So, if I were to give you, Conrad, a team that you would love to beat in March, like one team in your region that you'd be like, give me that team so I can smoke them. You can hate it, even if they're the best team in basketball. Do you have a team in mind?
Oh yeah, it's Alabama without a doubt, because I want to have Brennan Baxter on the Broadway Shuffle after Texas Tech beats Alabama, because I think that would make for very good content. So it's absolutely Alabama for me.
Yeah, just to be clear for our listeners, I am not an Alabama basketball fan. I just unfortunately have a set of family members that are big Alabama, and I have a wife that went there, so I have
Unfortunately?
Unfortunately, what
are you saying? You're unfortunately that you're related to them, or what are you saying there?
Thank God my wife doesn't listen to this show. I'm unfortunately, yeah, like I would, it'd be great to have a bunch of Red Raiders in the family, man. I don't know why you're putting me on the spot here. Let's.
I just want you to be open and personal on the Broadway Shuffle with our listeners.
And I'm down to be vulnerable with our listeners for sure. It's a family, it's a community here. But no, in all seriousness, right. I agree with you though. I mean. But oppositely, I would not want to face Alabama because they also have a bunch of bigs that are very athletic, and they've got good guards that they can rotate. I mean, Phylon, Sears, obviously,
yeah, and
so I think it's Holloway, and so there's like 3 or 4 dudes, that can come in and kind of disrupt Christian and Elijah. I would not like that matchup, and they play so fast. So, and you might want to beat them. I wouldn't want to face them.
Well, I said that tongue in cheek just because I wanted to see what would happen, and I got it. I got it out of you.
You got what you wanted.
But in all seriousness, I don't know how this would work, but I would really like to play A&M again with Toppin.
Mm.
Just because I'm still obviously hurting from that loss, having been at another Texas Tech sports loss. But also, I think with Toppin, I think we beat that team by, 7 or 8 points. I think we would have beat them pretty good in Fort Worth if we would have had him. So that's a team I'd like to see, just in-state rival. But obviously, if we could see Ole Miss and Coach Beard again, I think that'd be really fun as well. So I know Tech fans would get up for that. But those are two teams that, just with the ties we have to each school, that would be interesting and fun to watch.
Okay,
Yep.
you bring it up, Z. How big a deal would playing Ole Miss and losing be?
Not as big as if he was at Texas, I think, but man, it would be hard, but not as hard as if he's at Texas. I feel like there's still very much bad blood there, but it's not nearly as hot as when he was at the University of Texas. So
Yeah.
If you could guarantee me a matchup with Ole Miss right now, that means we at least won our first game. So I think I'd take it if you offered it to me, and I think it'd be fun. I think you could play with them.
So
I would love to see.
Go ahead.
I would love to see us play Indiana next year when he's their head coach.
Yeah, that would be awesome too. I'll take that.
Yeah, I would take that. So Z, you're kind of saying like if a round of 32 game, you'll just kind of take getting through the first round and you'll live with your chances there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think those tournament wins are just so hard to get. We've gotten semi-spoiled with the 2018 and 2019 and 2022 run. You think about teams that have been so good that haven't made it past the first weekend in forever. I mean, there's tons of teams like that. The Gonzagas of the world are not the norm. I think they've made like 10 straight Sweet 16s or something like that. That's very difficult to do.
Yeah.
I'll take any sort of win that I can get in the NCAA tournament.
Anyone else, like if I gave you Auburn, Houston, Florida, Tennessee, Duke, any of these teams you feel like you match up really well with? Like any of the top, the teams that are in the top 10 with you in the country?
This is bad because Auburn's the best team in the country. I just do not trust Bruce Pearl and that group of guys to be disciplined and to play when it's tight. Can Chad Baker-Mazara, can he keep himself from getting ejected from games? Can they now? If you could match me up with any other team other than Auburn, I'll take it because Auburn's clearly very good. I just don't trust Auburn long term. I think they're going to have a meltdown at some point. They have had to face almost zero adversity all season. What happens when they get a 10-point deficit with 8 minutes left or something? Like, what is that team going to do? Now, they may never have to deal with anything like that, but for whatever reason, Alabama or Florida feels like a much worse matchup to me than Auburn. The 2 seeds I'm not nearly as scared of. If I can get Wisconsin, I can get A&M, I can get even a team like, I guess Purdue's probably out of the conversation. Maybe Arizona can sneak up there. Give me a matchup with those teams any day. Tennessee's going to be real physical. They'd be a tough matchup for you, but their shooting is so bad. Like if you just get them on a semi-bad night, you could beat that team by 20.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and we'll have a lot of exciting March Madness content coming out here in a couple weeks. We're going to do a live, at least I think we're going to plan on doing it. We've never gone live before, but we're going to try to go live during Selection Sunday and just do a live bracket reveal and kind of see what our initial thoughts are. So be looking forward to that. And we'll be here all week for the first week of March Madness as well, too. So just keep that on your radar. And I imagine we'll also do a bracket challenge because why wouldn't we? We did one for football. We got to do one for March Madness and a lot of cool things coming your way. So, all right, there's something in the news that happened this week as we transition out of basketball for a little bit. Sir Cody Campbell. Yes. Thank you, Mr. Campbell, by the way, for what you were able to pull off in December and make my Christmas a much more sweeter holiday. Recently sold his company, made the news this week. And Z, it looked like he replenished the fund for April, man. Is that, you think that's why he sold it, or what's going on there at the Double Eagles?
McCaslin put in the call and said, "Hey, we need some money for this transfer portal window this spring." And he said, "I got it, man. Here's $4 billion." No, but in all seriousness, congratulations to Cody and John Sellers. Those guys are excellent Red Raiders, and Gary Peterson, who's involved with a company that invests with them. Those guys have been excellent for you and your university, and sold their fund for $4.1 billion. What an accomplishment, and what a testament to hard work.
What an NIL fund that is, Conrad, for the spring. $4.1 billion. Who's going to match that? I know I've heard Cody just giving it all to the fund.
Why wouldn't you, right? I mean, it's a good thing to give to, and I don't know, maybe you could give some of it to the Big 12 and pay off these refs to be in our favor every single game next year. That may be a worthwhile investment.
Or at least, I
There you
mean,
go.
I'd rather win fair and square, but at least maybe pay for some decent refs. That wouldn't
There you
hurt.
go.
Well, that's
You know?
yeah, that's fine too. I'm not trying to insinuate cheating or anything like that. I just want better officiating across the board. So and I'm sure Cody does too. So if he would like to help in that way, I don't know even what that looks like, but I think all of the country would greatly appreciate.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that? Like we start our own reffing organization or something. It's like, man, how sketchy is that?
Yeah.
But yeah, that is awesome. That's so cool to see
Yeah,
those guys
Like
do
the
that.
BYU home game next year, you see 4 refs, and you're like, I recognize those guys. It's like,
Is that the Pillsbury Doughboy?
is that Pillsbury doing the coin toss down there in a ref jersey? What's going on?
Hey, we
You know,
would ref it fair and square, right?
oh, for sure. And then
No.
we're on Monday morning. We're like, man, those refs were amazing this weekend. But no,
Remember the episode against Colorado where the thumbnail was Big 12 refs are terrible?
we just edit it.
We just edit
Yeah.
it and say Texas Tech refs are terrible.
It's us 4 smiling on the field after we
Yeah.
win.
Yeah, in our zebra stripes.
The zebra
Be
jersey.
great.
Man, but in all seriousness, congratulations to Cody. That's awesome. You know, it's great to see a Red Raider, one who was involved with the program, played under Leach, you know, build a business
Mhm.
and, you know, an entrepreneur and grow something and kind of make news and then be willing to give a portion of that back to the program that kind of helped shape him as a man. It's awesome. And Cody, if you do listen to this show, we would love to interview you and have you on and just hear about you and your journey as well. And, you know, we look forward to that one day as well. So, man, that's crazy. 4.1 billion. Conrad, what would you do with you were going to ask, I saw your mouth come up. What would you do
Yeah.
with 4.1 billion if you just sold, I don't know, your book collection behind you or something?
Yeah, for 4 point. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how the money actually shakes out. But let's just say I got, $500 million.
Which club, which country club you joining first?
Augusta National, baby.
Yeah.
Come on, Augusta
I
National.
don't think
Then I'd go.
that's not a monetary thing, right? You have to be like
No.
invited.
Yeah, dude.
No,
gotta
you
be
do. The
prestigious.
dues are stupid expensive, though. I think it's like, what is it per year, Brennan? I know you're a member there.
I actually canceled it.
Okay.
The course was
Pod
getting
was too important.
the course was getting too easy. And it was taken away from the pod. So I said, I don't
Yeah.
need this. I don't need this, dude. I was breaking 80 too easily.
Yeah.
But
Now,
okay,
a course that would be fun to join is that I actually used to be a member of. I think it was 2020. Is the Rawls course at Texas Tech. So
I knew he was going to
I'd-
say
wow.
that. Yeah.
I'd probably buy the course from the university
I was gonna say, you
and
can just buy
rename
it.
it. I don't know. I'd just buy it and rename it. I don't know, the Broadway Shuffle golf course. I think that'd be a good.
That would be
a good
great.
investment of funds.
Yeah. Okay, Z. Conrad's buying the Rawls with his 500 mil. You doing anything else that could be a little more interesting?
It's funny because Cody spent his money this past spring the exact same way I would have spent it if it's in the portal. But I've told people before, like if I ever win the lottery, you won't know, but there will be signs, and it'll be every 5-star in the country will sign with Texas Tech for whatever reason, and that's how you guys will know. No, I don't know. If I had that much money, I think I would renovate all the munis in Lubbock. They're terrible, and they should be much better. I would also reopen Joyland, and I would renovate Water
Yes.
Rampage.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would do a lot of stuff. I think
I love
there'd
it.
be
Man.
limitless opportunities.
I'd probably invest in Dirks as well. That'd be and expand that brand to DFW and Austin, because I think it's one of the best chicken places in the world. So
Nice.
It's crazy. What would I do with the other 498 million after I was done with those things?
Yeah.
You know, one thing I would do is Rawls is great. I'm sure Red Feather's great. I haven't been out there yet, but Meadowbrook Golf Course actually sits on the best land in Lubbock for a great golf course.
It does.
It's baffling to me that the city won't put more money into that place. I would renovate the crap out of that thing, and because it's got hills, undulation. It's great out there, and
It's got a river.
It's got it's like got everything you'd want.
I mean,
for
That's a
beautiful,
strong term.
Yeah, a river,
A brook.
Yeah,
A
yeah. It's
A stream.
and maybe find a way to keep some of the gopher holes. Like maybe you have like one hole, with some like prairie dogs on it. But that course
Actually,
has so much potential, man. So
It really does.
I know we've talked about this, but it's fun to talk about since it's never going to happen. But if it did happen to me, I would I'd buy a bunch of land in South Lubbock and I'd put 4 houses on it. And right in the middle of the 4 houses, I would build the most ginormous Broadway Shuffle studio with a golf simulator right next to it. and we would be a daily podcast for all of our mini listeners. That's what I would. That would be my dream. That'd be amazing.
That is actually my dream as well. If we could
Yeah,
find
the
land
compound.
and build a Broadway Shuffle compound and raise our many children on there,
Our shufflers,
our shufflers, and
shufflers.
develop them into Red Raiders, I would love that and nothing more. I can't wait to watch my 5'3" son try out for the Trinity basketball team in 2045. You know, it's going to be
Yeah,
great.
it'd be great.
Yeah.
He's going to be able to shoot, and we'd also put a helicopter pad there, and we would pay to build one on campus somewhere, and we would just go land it, so we wouldn't even have to drive to the games.
Yeah,
because 20 minutes would be too far.
Cody, sorry, you've got a suite in the stadium. We've got a pad on top of your suite, dude. So you know, you can sorry, dude. Cool apartment, but check out our helicopter pad. One day soon. So all right, well, let's get back to a little bit. There's one thing I want to talk about. Sorry. This episode's great. A team that's suffering quite a bit. This is really intriguing to me because Kansas basketball had a weird year last year. And it just felt off. And Bill Self was like, I'm tired of this team. I'm ready to kind of be done. Like, we checked out. Then they get clapped against BYU this week. And he pretty much says, like, we all need a break from each other. Like, quote, we need a break from each other. We're tired of each other. Z, what do you think's going on in Kansas? You think this is the end of a Big 12 dynasty?
Man, the whispers of Bill Self's retirement are growing louder, and I'm not sure if those are wish casting from the disgruntled Lawrence faithful, but yeah, man, weird. Just an odd Bill Self team. I think part of it too is the pieces just don't fit. It's like you bought really nice car parts, but you forgot that they were all from different cars, and so you put it together and it didn't really work. Like KJ Adams and Dickinson playing together is weird. Like Zeke Mayo and AJ Storr have not really. Zeke's been better, but AJ Storr's not very. Like DeWan, I don't know. It's just a weird team. It feels very tired. It's really interesting. I don't know. There's a chance this year that Indiana and KU and UNC could all be open jobs. That would be one of the most electric coaching carousels in college basketball history. But Bill Self has earned the benefit of the doubt. I mean, they're going to have a terrible season and they'll be like a 5 seed. So, I mean, things could definitely be worse. But it's amazing when teams are now allowed to legally pay players that Kansas basketball all of a sudden starts to take a step back. I wonder what was happening there and why that's a thing. But,
yeah, what happened the first 20 plus years of 2000s?
Zyler, are you insinuating that Bill Self is a cheater here on the Broadway Shuffle?
No, Bill Self is not a cheater. He's a man of high character. I would never slander somebody like that. Okay. You know who I would slander, though, is Tommy Tuberville, not a real senator.
Yeah.
Not a real senator.
No respect for him.
He still has not responded to my request for an interview on the Broadway Shuffle.
Yeah, Brennan, it is interesting. I wish they would continue to hate each other. They can get it together after we play them next Saturday. After that, figure your team out. But go ahead and have a little chaos while we enter, because I'm sure they'll figure it all out by the time we get there.
Conrad, thoughts on Kansas? I mean, I know you're the best hater. You do it subtly. Like, you hate TCU, you hate Baylor. You do it in a way of class, though. Where's Kansas basketball rank on that level?
I don't really feel any type of way towards Kansas, to be honest. I need things to happen closer to home to really affect me. It's TCU and Baylor are in a class of their own, TCU being number one for me. But Kansas basketball, it is interesting though, like Zyler said, with all the controversy around them. I mean, you never want to reward a cheating team, and so to see them maybe take a couple steps back in this new era, I'm not going to be complaining about it. But I just can't believe he said publicly that we all just need a break from each other. Like, could you imagine if I was on the Broadway Shuffle and said, "Yeah, guys, I just need a break from y'all. I'll be back in a few weeks."
Never.
Could y'all just imagine that?
Never. Me and you.
Now,
go ahead, Z.
We do need to mention Clayton's not here because he had to take care of some emergency stuff, so it wasn't like we just abandoned him. So, in case you were wondering where Clayton was, he'll be back next episode. But yeah,
and he's still alive. He is still living. Yeah, it's not nothing crazy. He's we're actually, while we're on the subject, we're actually Clayton. It's his bachelor party this weekend, and so a few of us are making a trek down in Colorado, and unfortunately, we had a little mishap with an Airbnb that Clayton had to deal with. So that's really what's going on for those that want to be in the know. And I think it got resolved. I just got a text. I think it got resolved. So we might not be stranded in Colorado this weekend, but we will figure that out. But we missed you, Clayton.
Y'all could have stayed at Dion's house. I've got a connection.
I've heard you and the Colorado friends are really close. But dude, yeah, it's interesting with Bill Self in Kansas because he's been there so long, and cheating, no cheating, paying players, not paying players. We want to call it. They've won championships. He's been successful. Yep. But the last few years have just felt un-Kansas like. When it is kind of interesting to feel like there might be a shift. I mean, obviously you've got some big boys in the Big 12 now with Houston and Arizona, who've really, Arizona obviously new to the conference, but Houston has ran this conference since they've joined it. Arizona comes first year. They're having a ton of success. And then you've obviously got Texas Tech and Iowa State that have been pretty stable programs too. So you don't really need, and Baylor, you don't really need Kansas. Like you kind of felt like you might've did back in the day, like there's so much good basketball in this conference now that they've kind of just fallen back into the middle of the pack. Or Z, is it maybe that the rest of the teams around them have just gotten a lot better?
I think they've fallen off a little bit. And, it does feel like as soon as Houston got here that they fell off. But you forget, I mean, it was how many years in a row did they win the Big 12? I mean, it was something insane, like 7 or 8 years in a row that they won the regular season title. They were winning Big 12 championships at the conference tournament all the time. They won several. Like Bill Self's clearly a great coach. It just maybe there's a lot of young, hungry coach. I mean, Kelvin Sampson excluded. A lot of young guys that are really hungry. You got Grant, but you're seeing that with some of the old, like Scott Drew's getting a little bit older and is not quite as good as they used to be. I don't know. It's just an interesting environment, and there's so much that's changed in the last 4 years. Not being a young and dynamic coach in this environment, I think, has some drawbacks. And Kansas is going to do things the way that Kansas has always done things, and I think this period of rapid change may take them longer to adjust to than some of the quote-unquote new bloods like Houston, like Tech. We found success in 2018. Kansas has had success since the beginning of basketball. So just kind of I think an interesting dynamic, slower turning ship than, let's say some of these other programs.
Yeah, dude, they were doing like basket weaving when Kansas was playing basketball. Like it was like they're throwing balls into baskets, like literal baskets, So
they're the rules of basketball are actually housed at Fog Allen. You can actually go look at them. I had a guy from KU tell me that the other day.
Yeah, that's crazy. I did not know that actually.
I know.
If you and if you think about it, like you want to beat Kansas, but it's good for the sport if Kansas is Kansas. Like you don't want to kind of see like a UT football scenario where they're pretty much like, I know we like, for nationally, I'm not talking Tech. Like we love seeing UT suck, but for basketball, because it needs blue bloods a little more because it just kind of drives it a little. When Duke is good and you can hate Duke, it's good for the sport. When Kansas is good and you can hate Kansas, it's good for the sport. So, and then when we are good enough to beat them, it's even better for us. Like the best home game we probably got to experience was the 2019 Kansas game at home. Like that was electric, and it was Kansas, and it was everything you could hope it would be.
And they were good that year.
And they were great
that year.
And you smoked them, and it like felt so much more rewarding because you got to beat a good Kansas team. So it's kind of a tough place to be because you also want the Big 12 to be a great conference because if you were to lose to a good Kansas team, it's actually better for your resume too. So hopefully you beat them though here in a couple weeks. So all right, well, we'll see what happens in Kansas and hopefully we'll find a way to beat them. But this week in Texas Tech sports, you got the basketball game Saturday against West Virginia, what I would call a must win if you have any hopes of winning the conference, because then you turn right around on Monday and play Houston. And then baseball starts their first homestand as well, looking to bounce back after a tough week in North Carolina. So, Conrad, you going to make it out to any baseball games this year? Maybe
please don't.
Maybe you can turn the tide at maybe a doubleheader one night, go 2-0 and start feeling good about your chances of going to Tech sporting events.
Yeah, I think my record on my couch is a lot better than in-person Tech events. So I think Red Raider Nation may ask me to stay home for the benefit of everyone involved.
Man, if you count your and this isn't just you, obviously, because a lot of us were involved in this, but if you count your school, your when you were in school attendance record as well, with how kind of mid we were at football back then, you'd probably be drafting first, buddy.
Yeah, I've got a pretty bad record for in-person attendance. That would be great if we could all go back and look at all the games we were at and what our actual record is forever. Maybe that's like a summer project or something.
I don't think I saw a Big 12 home win that wasn't Kansas outside of that Oklahoma State game that we randomly won against Spencer Sanders that year.
Yeah. That's a good point, Z.
That-
Wow.
That's
Okay,
That's
I've
really depressing.
I've got a question that just popped in my head. If you could, Z, and me and you were there, if you could trade beating Virginia and then every other sporting event you went to, you lost, and we can do, up until like 2020. So like not the last 5 years. Would you take that?
Yeah, banners fly forever.
Yeah.
You take the natty.
Yeah.
Like I'm talking every football game you were at, loss. Every basketball game, baseball.
That
like
was pretty
everything's-
much my experience as a football. I mean, we just didn't win any home games under Cliff.
Yeah.
We just didn't win home games. That was the
Yeah.
thing that killed him.
And it was weird,
And the recruiting
what's
and the coaching.
What was interesting about that though is like
Not
I
the
have a lot of-
offensive play calling.
Right.
The coaching.
Correct. The coaching. If you but it's interesting because you kind of maintained at least the stereotype of like it's hard to go play in Lubbock. Because I have friends that go to other school and be like, man, I don't want to go to Lubbock. And I was like, dude, every program in the last 5 years has loved going to Lubbock. Like, I don't know, when I was at school there, but it did kind of maintain. And then Joey has obviously brought that back more recently. You want to get a big time win at home. The Texas game, I guess, and Oklahoma game is his first year would account, but like a meaningful game in November at home would be great. You're still kind of looking for that stamp, but Joey has definitely turned the tide at home, and that's been great to see. A lot more success in the Jones. It's just what you need. It should be tough to go win there.
It's so funny to me also thinking about last season. If you would have just beaten Arizona in, let's say, late November, that would have been the biggest win you've had at home in a really long time. It would have been a top 12
beat
team. Arizona State.
Oh, yeah. If it was in the end of the season versus the beginning.
Yes.
Yeah, because you beat them at the beginning of the season. I was like, I expected to beat that team. That wasn't really a big win. And then all of a sudden, there they are going toe-to-toe with Texas. And it was just like that win just didn't really feel important at all. It was kind of a ho-hum game.
Yeah.
You won. I just didn't think they were going to be anything. But it's just when the games happened, it's just interesting thinking back. Like, that's probably the best Big 12 win last year.
I mean, with what turned out to happen. And imagine
the conference champion.
Yeah,
Iowa State on the road was the best one.
Yeah. But if
and I can't wait for football.
Oh, we'll have plenty. We'll have plenty to talk about leading into August. But Conrad, imagine if Arizona State would have beaten Texas. You'd be saying not only did you beat a team at home that made the playoff, but then went and beat Texas. And
they won a playoff game.
And they won a playoff game. And you really should have. Like, they should have won that game. So it is that is kind of crazy to think about, Z. That's a great point, because if that game does happen later in the year and you do win that game, it looks like, wow, what a win. But we thought they weren't going to be that good, and they turned into the Big 12 champion.
You think like about Cincinnati, like Colorado, that felt like a huge game at home, but Cincinnati or Arizona State, ultimately that was the biggest game that you played at home as far as importance.
Yeah.
And you won.
That's a great
point. ACU, baby.
Oh yeah.
That ACU win really just set the trajectory right for the football season last year. That was our our second episode ever? Is the sky falling for Texas Tech football after beating ACU by one? I think that was episode 2 of the Broadway Shuffle.
We were rookies by that point. We're much more seasoned podcasters now.
Conrad, your takes at the beginning of the season matured tremendously. I mean,
They did.
I kind of miss. I want to get back to that OG Conrad like rage takes. Those were great.
You will during football. You definitely.
No.
Okay, this is a good question. Sorry, Conrad. Go ahead. I'll wait.
No, go ahead, Brennan. I don't have anything of value to say.
Who do you think out of it will include Clayton, though he's not here, who's progressed the most and who has digressed the most on the podcast?
It's definitely Conrad.
I didn't realize people actually wanted to listen to us.
Well, at the time they didn't know who we were.
Well, that's true. I don't really know a digress. I don't think that's a fair take. I think we've all improved tremendously at podcasting and hosting a show. So yeah, I don't know necessarily the answer to that question.
Let's let the fans answer that question in the comments.
It's gonna be me.
17 people that are still listening.
Yeah.
Like, tell us who has matured the most.
No, Conrad, to be fair, you have the most emotion, I think, of the four of us, and in the passion. And you do such a great job of harnessing it when you need to. And Man, I mean, it's great to see, and we need it. You embody
Exactly.
what the Red Raider fans, represent, dude, and especially during football. We know you don't. Obviously, according to some people, you could, care less
Dude,
about
I love
basketball.
Red Raider
Yeah.
basketball. Are you kidding me? Like that's such a bad you want to talk about bad takes. The fact that if you're gonna say I don't like Red Raider basketball, that's just a bad take. But I will say I did not know who Kevin Overton was, but to be totally honest with you, I do not keep up with basketball recruiting in the slightest. Obviously I knew about JT and Elijah, but did not really I just don't really spend
These
much
are all
brain
like
power on that.
deep cut Broadway Shuffle references. Like you had to have listened to so many episodes to understand what we're getting into right now.
And if
These
you're
were the
listening,
OGs.
if you're listening, for 45 minutes, you probably have listened to most episodes.
Yeah, you probably
I would imagine your first episode, you're not like, dude, these guys are, this is crazy. Let me just keep hearing all about their journey to this point,
Yeah.
No.
Shout out to Kim Coulter. I know she's out there listening. Shout out to Jet. I know he'll listen to this whole thing.
Yes.
So appreciate you guys.
We love
sticking
Kim
through
Coulter.
here.
She comments, we started implementing a subscriber of the week on our Monday morning shows. So wouldn't be surprised to see Kim there. But if we want to go and do an honorary Thursday subscriber, shout out to Kim Coulter. She's great. And we appreciate you commenting and everything too. But Conrad, it'll be great, dude. The offseason content as we close the show, Z, I know we got trivia coming up in a sec, but that's going to be a lot of fun because we're going to be able to kind of riff and, think about different things.
Argue.
And maybe bring up some scenarios that, some people will feel strongly about. And maybe
I'm so glad you went there.
And maybe two other people on this podcast will feel strongly about. And we'll see, which men come out on top. It's just a true battle. It'll be interesting.
And we will let those in the comments decide who came out on top.
Yes.
But I will say
my
I don't know
Will
that
Hammond takes are marinating and they are going to be so spicy.
Oh, I'm sure they are. I will say
Conrad,
go ahead.
We got to see the boys practice. Will Hammond's put on some weight. Looks like a leader of men in my eyes. So I don't know. That's just kind of me.
Well, I hope he's eating at Las Baristas and Triple J's all the time, eating all those steaks. So I hope that's happening. But I will say I don't know that every time I talk to Brennan quite a bit, and if I had $1 for every single time he mentioned off-season football content, I may have $4.1 billion. It would be my coffers would be full. That compound will be built. The helicopter will be bought because I've never met a man as excited about something in my life as Brennan Baxter is about off-season football content.
I cannot wait.
You will.
And guess what? The best part is that we'll be celebrating a Final Four run, getting into off-season content. Hopefully, it'll be a great spring for Red Raiders and for the Broadway Shuffle. And speaking of this compound, I've been thinking about this the whole episode. If you're out there and you would love to help us out and want to invest in making sure the Broadway Shuffle can have a badass studio and live in South Lubbock somewhere, so we can all be together as one, feel free to reach out to us at the Broadway Shuffle at gmail.com.
No, we'll put Brennan's phone number in the comments for all of you to
put
call.
My cell phone number in the comments. So, all right, man, we've talked enough. So, give us a tech trivia and let's get out of here.
I was actually shocked by this one. We were arguing about this, and I was wrong. I want you to list the top 3 scorers for us this season in basketball in order. I will be shocked if anybody gets this right.
Okay, top 3 scores.
Total points.
Just
total points, not offensive rating, not points per
not
games.
average.
Yeah.
Just total points.
No, not average. Just total points.
Okay, so this is actually a great. Okay, you would,
and it's incredibly close. It's separated by, I think, 15 points.
Okay, I'm gonna go because Toppin was injured for a little bit and has missed some games. I'm gonna go Chance 1, Toppin 2, D5 3.
Conrad.
I'm gonna go Chance 1. Let me go D5 2.
Top.
I'm gonna take a shot in the dark just to be different, and I'm gonna say Christian Anderson at 3.
Wow. If you would have went Toppin, you would have had it, Conrad. Way to trust your gut. It's
Okay.
Chance and JT Toppin. Chance with 393, Darian with 379, and Toppin with 376.
Wow.
Any guesses on who number 4 is?
Is it Christian?
It is Christian with 230 points.
See, I do know ball for all the listeners that are listening this far.
Conrad knows ball.
I was wrong, but
great question.
It was a reasonable take.
That is crazy how close it is. You'd think Toppin's had the biggest box score game, so he'd be like way up there, but with the missed time, it makes sense. So
yeah.
Yep.
Well, go Z, go ahead.
No, we're good.
You're good. All right. Well, man, guys, I just love seeing you guys. That was a ton of fun. I can't wait to be back on
You
Monday.
don't need a break from us like Bill Self does
I
from the
don't need a
Kansas
break from
Jayhawks.
you ever. In fact, I can't wait till we're recording daily in our studio off of like 198th and Quaker or something one day. I don't know where, whatever it continues to grow south, we'll be out there at some point. So, well, and thank you for listening, whether on Spotify or Apple. Again, make sure you follow there as well. And then give us a like on the stars. That'd be great. Helps us grow our show. And then if you are on YouTube, checking us out, looking at our faces, we appreciate that. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to our channel so you never miss an episode every Monday and Thursday. Like I said, we'll be back on Monday to look back at the West Virginia game and look forward to Houston. And then we'll hopefully have Lawrence Odiase on for Thursday's episode. So make sure to follow along. You can find all of our social medias in the links below in this episode. So thank you guys, and we'll see you next time on the Broadway Shuffle. Wreck 'em.